There's a common pattern or dynamic that can be seen in many women who develop PPD. The cycle begins with a well-intentioned woman who wants very much to be the best mom she can be to her baby. Perhaps she's a bit of a perfectionist. That's not a bad thing, but when it comes to the messy business of taking care of babies, an expectation of perfection can lead to unrealistic visions of what is humanly possible. Or maybe she wants her baby to grow up differently than she did, and deep down she's terrified she might make the same mistakes her own parents made. Maybe she has certain goals for how she will give birth and care for her baby. Natural birth, no pain relievers, no medical interventions during the birth, no formula ever. She should do it all without help, only cloth diapers, etc. Add whatever noble ideals you can think of. These are all good, healthy intentions and great goals. Unfortunately, birth, breasts, and babies do not always have the same plan as you do. To adapt a turn of phrase, we plan, baby laughs. Through no fault of our own, things can go down a different path. If we cling too tightly to a single vision as the only acceptable outcome, we can get in our own way. We can label successes as failures because they weren't exactly what we hoped for. We can make the very difficult job of raising a baby even harder. So when this imaginary woman has her baby, things don't go quite as envisioned. Instead of accepting these differences, she feels like she should have been able to prevent it. She feels responsible for every deviation from her fantasy of how things were supposed to go. She may even begin to wonder if this is a sign she wasn't meant to be a mother. Keep in mind, this woman is usually a highly rational and logical person, but during this time, she's experiencing the exhaustion of having had a baby and has endured discomfort, maybe even a C-section, and has taken on the responsibility for caring for a baby. To top it off, she's surviving on less than 50% of her normal amount of sleep. Anyone can become vulnerable to insecurities under these circumstances, so let's give this woman some grace. It is in this exhausted state that she begins caring for her baby. Breastfeeding may not be going smoothly. Maybe she's recovering from a C-section or dealing with out-of-town guests. She's more exhausted than she's ever been in her entire life. Babies require so much care that whatever she does, it feels like it's not enough. To quell those concerns, she becomes excessively meticulous in care of the baby and increasingly vigilant over the baby's safety. She sacrifices her own needs to an even greater extent. Often, without even recognizing it, she drops many of the routines that made her feel good each day. Her morning shower, choosing an outfit for work, drinking coffee while catching up on the news, leaving her home each morning, seeing coworkers, interacting with other adults, or discussing grown-up topics not centered around the baby. She probably never realized how much these tiny routines grounded her. As her self-care diminishes, she becomes more and more drained. Enjoyable and satisfactory moments with her baby fade, while frustrating ones increase. Exhaustion shortens her fuse. Anger and perhaps even rage can surface. Not understanding her feelings, she feels even worse about herself. So she decides to be even more selfless. She focuses all her remaining energy on meeting her baby's every need. What remained of her self-care is now almost completely gone. She is locked in a cycle in which exhaustion leads to feeling of failure, which leads to even greater self-sacrifice, which in turn leads to an ever-worsening cycle of depression. Life changes and sleep deprivation lead to stress and exhaustion. These can make you feel overwhelmed and feelings of failure. Then women begin to blame themselves, which causes them to withdraw from help. They try harder to be all they think they should be, leading to greater self-sacrifice. At this point, they're depleted and empty, leading to depression. You can see how at every point along the route to depression, that while intentions are good and the baby is well cared for, the mother suffers. However, there are opportunities along this path to change the course, to not just prevent things from worsening, but to make life better. Small changes can make a huge difference in how you feel. The next 2 lessons will focus on strategies that you can easily implement to fully enjoy motherhood and avoid the PPD cycle. Now, there's also a cycle for postpartum anxiety. The PPA cycle starts out just like the PPD cycle. Life changes and sleep deprivation lead to stress and exhaustion. Woman becomes overwhelmed with feelings of failure, but instead of anger turning inward, she has more fears of inadequacy in the PPA cycle. To compensate for this fear, a mom becomes hypervigilant. Her baby radar goes into overdrive. On a scale of 1 to 10, she goes to 11. To feel like she has a handle on things, she tries to maintain control. Control in motherhood is impossible, and so she becomes more anxious. The specific strategies to prevent PPA are covered in my Motherhood Survival Manual Anxiety Edition. Just as with preventing depression, we can do a lot to prevent perinatal anxiety.